tea? What's the 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 tea?
Water Bear here yet again, and welcome back to the Water Bear's Tea. And I have such a special video to bring to you guys today. I'm going to be talking about the millennials yet again, and this activation that I really am seeing us going through right now. So before we get too deep into everything, my Virgo rising has to chat and wants to just say, be patient with me through this video. I have so much I want to talk about, and from so many different points. And I'm trying to organize it in the best way and make sure it's also digestible. So yeah, I'm going to be doing my best, but just, bear with me if certain things, if I start rambling, because I'm also very excited to share this. And sometimes when I get very excited, you tend to lose the grounding. So I'm going to try to keep both, okay? So let's chat about the activation of the millennials. And before we get deep into exactly what that even means, I want to talk about the grand scheme, and then we'll keep getting more zoomed in. And so I feel like growing up, I remember reading about how each generation that comes along has just like I don't know if they said like we use more percentage of our brain or something like that, but basically, and it's evident, each new generation holds something within them that helps advance society, humanity, that kind of thing. We're always advancing, always developing, okay? And I seem to notice that the key signatures of what's going on in society is really reflected by what's been from the people, okay? However they've been, dealing with society and dealing with the world, it's a direct representation of where we are, okay? And as society changes, each generation kind of comes in and adds their 2 cents, which brings in that change, okay? And what's interesting as well, looking at it from astrology's perspective, is whatever is happening in society at a certain amount of time, the people born in that time hold the signature of that time in society. Okay, your birth chart not only represents you and how in your energy, but it also represents what was going on the year and the time, the day you were born. Okay, you hold the day of whatever year you were born. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of how the generations interplay with society. It's like whatever energy was brewing in society when you were born, that energy is always going to be within you. And so when you get of age, you become that energy and you manifest that out into the world. Okay. And so the millennials, when we were born, it was a major time of change. It was, number one, I want to mention the mass introduction of the internet. Okay, and technology. And what's really beautiful is, if you follow me a lot, I talk about the age of Aquarius. A lot of other people talk about the age of Aquarius because we're going to this new age. That's like the main video on my page, so you can check that out if you want a deep talk about that. I'll talk about it for over an hour, talking about the age of Aquarius. And Aquarius rules the internet and rules technology in that way. So it's interesting that the millennials, we were born in the age where, or in the time frame when the internet was really beginning and booming. And you've seen that development as we've aged. And now it's really interesting as well, as the millennials are using, the main thing we're using is the internet as a tool to connect, a tool to also for employment. A lot of the millennials you can see, like YouTube stars and things, or even me, for example, are using the internet for self-employment reasons, to connect with others. Think about, the chat rooms growing up, how popular that was with our generation. And so we hold this kind of signature with technology because that was what was being curated and really developed when we were born. So like I said before, we're here now to manifest what was happening when we were born. Also, what was happening was a lot of global crisis and shifts in power, okay, in the late 80s and the early mid-90s. Major change in that way. Also major change in social structures and equality within minorities. Okay, not just, this is, way past the civil rights movement, but this is also talking about LGBT rights, which really kicked in, especially in the late 80s. Um, this is also talking about, looking at body image, okay, and what we see as beautiful. These are all things that were coming into focus as well in the late 80s and into the 90s, okay. Um, and so we hold those signatures since we were born at that time. The millennials I always talk about. I also made a full video all about the millennials, so I don't want to get too. I'm going to, of course, go over a lot of those things, but for the full tea about that, make sure you tune into that video I made. Even you might want to watch that before to get even more information, because I'm just going to be sampling off of that video to kind of prove my point in this video about the activation. But again, for more tea on that, check out that past video because I go way more in depth about millennials in general. But millennials, we also were born at the time when Pluto, and I'll talk about that way more in depth in a second. Pluto was in Scorpio. Okay, Pluto rules over the area of Scorpio. So anytime he's in Scorpio, which happens only once every 250 years, and yes, he is in a sign for a little more than 10 years, so he moves slow, but still, that's a long time. Every 250 years, Pluto goes into Scorpio. Okay. And what's interesting is Pluto in Scorpio and his rulership means he's the strongest. And it also, Pluto deals with incarnation and generations. It's a generational planet. It's about what each generation holds because for about 12 years or so, everyone born has that same Pluto in whatever sign it is. So they hold a similar energy, which coins our generations. It's really interesting that each generation literally lasts the time of the Pluto in each sign. Okay, I don't know if they knew about astrology, the people that came up with that and coined that, but it's perfectly in alignment. And so Pluto and Scorpio, we are the ancient ones, the ancient souls. We are the warrior souls. We are the oldest souls. We are anybody with Pluto and Scorpio because your Pluto is again that generational planet, but it's your deepest soul essence. Okay. Which is why Scorpio and Pluto, which are the same area, rule depth. And death, but depth like deepness, because it's deep, what's deep within you. Okay. So all of the Pluto, Scorpios, all the millennials, and I want to just mention the millennial age, it starts at the very end of Pluto Libra and ends at the very beginning of Pluto Sagittarius. And so it's blended, and you need that energy in generations. You need people that have wisdom from the previous generation to push you, and have camaraderie and have an understanding. And you also need generations that are at the very beginning of the next generation so that we can connect the two, okay, and interplay and interrelate in that way. And that's what you can see as well. So the people I'm talking to that have Pluto in Libra and Pluto in Sag, this still applies to you, but you're kind of like the siblings of the millennials. You know what I'm saying? You're part of the millennial age, but your purpose is a touch different. Okay, this video especially is mainly for the 91 to 93, 94, 92 to 93, 94, mainly 93 and 94. That was really when it was going down. But that's like the mid, like the right at the peak of the millennial age before it finished. I'm in 95, 96. But everybody has a purpose, okay? And you're kind of see that throughout this video, but I really want to mention the 93, 94 age, 92, because that's my group. And that's kind of what I was looking for at this moment. And our purpose is very, very special. And so, again, with Pluto and Scorpio, we're born, all millennials, Pluto and Scorpio, which is deep depth and oldest souls, warrior souls. But when you think of old souls, it means your soul has incarnated multiple times. You live many lives, much experience, okay? And if you know anything about Earth, the experience on Earth is not just, candy canes and lollipops. It's difficult. There's human suffering. There's suffering of all, everything. It's dense. It is tough. And it's that spiritual ground we're in right now, the spiritual school, And so the millennials, when we were born with Pluto and Scorpio, what I always believe in astrology is whatever your soul needs to get to like a place of maturity, you experience in everything in your childhood that gets you to that place, basically. And so since the Pluto and Scorpios are these old souls, are these wise ones, all are these ancient souls here now, the most ancient and the oldest in the past 250 years, And we won't see energies like us until for another 200-ish years, until the next Pluto and Scorpio generation. With that, our childhoods needed to basically be representations of all the lives we went through so that we can get back to where we left off, if that makes sense. Because when you're born tabula rasa, blank slate. We don't know anything. We are born kind of with amnesia, forgetting all the past lives. And, let's say this life is about developing into, your purpose is to accept yourself and spread acceptance to others. Okay. In order to get to that place, you're going to need a childhood that is going to teach you about that in whatever way. Either that is you don't feel accepted, so you need to accept yourself, or you are accepted and you share that with others. But because life is about a constant growth, you need a certain period to get you back to where you left off. Kind of like with school. You have summer, you kind of forget everything. Then the first month or two of school is a review so that you can get back to where you were. Okay. This is what childhood does for everybody. I always look at everyone's astrology and I'm talking about like, oh, when you were a child, you probably had this happen, this happen, this happen. Because I'm looking at the blueprint and seeing the purpose, And so with Pluto and Scorpio, we're these old souls, but we need, think about it, to get to the top, you need a lot of experience and wisdom in a lot of situations. So we're the generation that it's not rare to hear about single parenting. Basically, everybody I grew up around had single parents. It was actually rare that I grew up with two. Thinking about as well trauma. Okay, on the TV, it was seeing crime on the TV. We're the first generation of the video games with shooting, all these things. Sex and music and sexuality was not hidden from us. We grew up as well listening to all kind of music. The hip hop phase started coming in and which talked a lot about the dark. It talked about money and stuff too. That's kind of where it's gotten, but hip hop really, especially in the '90s, in the late '80s, was a lot about life and experience and the tough aspects of life and getting through life. And so we grew up in this age. We grew up completely desensitized from violence and not saying fully desensitized, but it was commonplace. Okay. Literally one of my favorite shows as a child was Cheaters on TV. You know what I'm saying? So like, do you see? We weren't just watching Disney Channel. We were watching all kinds of things. We saw lots of, just think about the amount of violence and um, domestic violence happening at that time, and divorce rates and all these things were so high. So we're the children of that time. So of course we experienced that because we were living in the household. Okay, so we experienced major traumas, major also in the time we grew up in the time of instability in society. When I graduated high school, it was crazy. They were really saying, even people that were literally when I was graduating high school, and the millennials were, the generation before us was reporting about how there's no jobs, even though they have degrees. So we're sitting here graduating like, wait, I'm about to go to college for what? You know what I'm saying? So we're in this interesting place. We're born in this interesting place of the collapse of society. We're born in it. And so we hold all of those deep energies within us. And the point of that, though, is we need that wisdom to be able to create something new. We need we know what it feels like to suffer. We know what it feels like to see others suffering. We know what danger looks like. We know what corruption looks like. Pluto is also about truth, and depth is what's deep. What's the truth underneath the surface? Because people love to say certain things or lie to you. Your parents will say just anything. Think about like Santa Claus and stuff like that, to protect children, because children should have some bit of innocence. Not fully being embraced in the world, even though we were. But our generation was one of the first that really kind of saw through all the bull that and the lies that society tells you. You know what I'm saying? We also are seekers of truth, and so a lot of things the other generations kind of push down. We're the generation that's going into our anxiety, going into our traumas, and not just self-medicating ourselves out of it. It's like, no, I really want to heal. You hear a lot about generational trauma and healing it with our generation because that's our purpose. Okay, taking on the traumas and the things that were not healed and actually healing it. Okay, so we can move on and not keep repeating these same patterns, these same trauma stories that our parents went through or their parents went through. We're now here to figure out what happened, how that affected us, heal it, so our children don't have to be in that same cycle. We can actually continue into something new and expand into something new. So that's a lot of the Pluto generation, the millennials' purpose. And so now I want to get to the activation and what's happening now. Okay. So again, like I said before, and I want to use this little drawing thing. And again, if you watch my videos, me and this drawing thing is on and off. Sometimes I suck with it. Okay. So we're gonna highlight, these are the main two areas we're gonna be focused on: Capricorn and Scorpio. And like I just said, the millennial generation, we're here. We were born with Pluto when Pluto was moving through the sign of Scorpio. Okay. My Pluto is about, let me see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So in the 93, Pluto was about here. Okay. And in 95, it's like started moving in and out of Sag. All right. And then when we get into the late 80s, you can start to see how Pluto moved into Scorpio. Okay. But the entire time Pluto was moving through Scorpio, giving us this energy, all the things I was just talking about. Okay. What also was happening at this time, right? You had Uranus, and let me just kind of draw the symbols. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. I told you guys, you got to really bear with me on this. Trying to get this the symbolism here. Oh my gosh. You had Uranus. Stop doing that. You had Uranus. Make that smaller. Uranus. Trying to draw a circle. This thing is a little frustrating. Okay, and there's supposed to be a line right here, but it's not letting me draw it. This is kind of what Uranus looks like. The symbolism for it. Okay, and Pluto. Okay, oops, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm trying, y'all, I'm trying. Okay. I'm sorry, not Pluto. I meant to do Neptune. Look at me. Pluto is over here. Uranus and Neptune, guys. Okay. And so if we look at the planets, you got Saturn. Anything before Saturn close to the sun is something we can see with the naked eye. And so that's seen as a personal planet, meaning it deals with your life because you can see it. So you see it in your life. Okay, like the sun is what's happening in your life. You know what I mean? I'm an Aquarius because my sun is an Aquarius. Okay. Moon is also very important. You know, Mars is your actions. Venus is your love, nature, your relationships. When you get past Saturn, you start to get into generational planets. You start to get into the spiritual planets. Okay. Pluto, which is over here, I talked about. Uranus and Neptune are all past Saturn. And what that deals with is the spiritual connection. Okay. We also cannot see them with the naked eye. And the spiritual, can you see the divine? No. I mean, you can see, you know, signs from spirit, but we can't see spirit. Okay. So that's that correlation. All right. And so whatever goes on with these planets past Saturn deals with not only the generation, but also deals with how the spiritual connects with the society. Okay. At that time. So you only got 3 outside of Saturn. You know, you got Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto over here. Okay. And so, Lord, let me try to redraw Pluto. I'm like struggling. But I want to make sure we have the symbols. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is kind of what it looks like. Okay. There we go. Let me move that a little bit. Okay. Got Pluto over here, Uranus, and Neptune. Now, what was happening is during this time of the millennials, you know, in the late 80s into the 90s, Pluto was moving through here, like we talked about. But also, Uranus and Neptune were fused, okay? They were forming a conjunction, which looks like, the symbol for that looks like this. Why won't it make me, looks like, oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh, move the line, move the line. It looks like this, a conjunction, okay? And they were conjunct in the sign of Capricorn, okay? And a conjunction, especially with big planets, because these planets are massive in size, minus Pluto, he's small, but his energy is big, is about an orb of 6 degrees. Okay, and what I mean by orb is the distance between the planets. They're considered conjunct when they're within 6 degrees of each other. Okay, because you got a whole 360 degrees, so 6 degrees is not that far apart. That's like this section here. Okay, so all millennials have these 2 planets within a certain range in Capricorn, meaning conjunct. When you have planets conjunct, their energy fuses together. Okay, so we have, all the millennials have this energy together fused. All right. And a lot of people, there's actually not that many people talking about what this means. You can Google it, and some people share about it, but I don't really vibe with what they share. Okay. And what's interesting is I was born in 93. There was 3 days in the year, and this happens every 2000-ish years. There were 3 days when these planets were exactly together, the exact same place, not just 6 degrees apart, but within 1 degree apart. And I was born the day that they were exactly together. On my birth chart, it's it's the exact placement together. Okay, and so I get these energies very strong. All right, and I'm like the strong, like the main theme millennial here because I hold this energy very, very strong. And what this is to me is Neptune is the energy of the spiritual. Neptune is the energy, the rulership of Pisces. Okay, and currently we'll get into this in a second. Neptune is in Pisces right now, connecting to both of these areas, which is also key why the activation of the millennials. But Neptune is the divine. Neptune is the synchronicities you see. Neptune is the dreams the meaningful dreams. Neptune is the spiritual. Uranus is the higher awareness. Uranus is known as the great awakener. Uranus is about waking up, the shock and surprise of awareness, revelation. It's channeling. It's downloads. This is all Uranus. Uranus is, both of these are very intuitive, deal with intuition, but Neptune is more the yin, receptive intuition, okay, receiving guides, following, trusting in spirit. Uranus is more the masculine, directionary, action-oriented intuition about receiving downloads, your awakening, self-awareness, okay, and innovation from the new into the new. So with these fused, all the millennials have this energy within us that is very spiritual, but it's about awakening through the spiritual, the connection between both of these, okay? And what's interesting is, put a little plus there. What's interesting is both of these planets are fused in the energy of Capricorn, which is the most matured Earth energy, okay? You got Taurus, then you got Virgo, then you got Capricorn. This is the most matured Earth. So what's interesting, Capricorn is about, again, like I talked about, government structures and the long-term plan, your long-term career plan. So for the millennials to have these two energies fused in the energy of structures and government, we're here to materialize and bring down new structures of the spiritual and innovative ideas into society. Okay? And so we have this connection. And what's happening is every other sign, every 60 degrees basically, because it's 30 degrees in each sign. So Scorpio is 60 degrees away from Capricorn. This is a water energy. This is an earth energy, and water and earth are the two yin, feminine energies in the zodiac, and so they blend, okay? Known as a sextile. When we were born, this energy was sextile to the Pluto, okay? Sextile brings opportunities and the flow of energy. So all the millennials have this energy of this deep, generational, intuitive energy of seeking the truth, this warrior-like energy where we will stand up for anything we don't want to be put down. We can see through everything. We're these deep old souls. And then we have this connection to Capricorn energy with this blend, which is giving us this intuitive information of how to restructure ourselves. Okay? So then when we get into age, which is happening now, we're going to be creating all these new structures, implementing them into society, and using this intuitive eye we have to look at what in society needs to be torn down for something new. Okay? And then when you get into the last thing I want to talk about with this makeup of the millennials, before we get into how the activation is happening now, the millennials have Saturn. Okay, so this is Saturn's symbol. Let me move this over a little bit. Saturn symbol. Okay, come on, work with me. Work with me. Okay, move this girl over. Boom, Saturn. Okay, Saturn is the planet of structure, the planet of integrity. Saturn rules over this area, which is about how we're getting to the top of the mountain. Okay, and so to have Saturn for the millennials, it was in between these two areas. Okay, the early millennials, you have Saturn in Capricorn, which is about literally structuring society. Okay, So the early millennials are the ones that are right now, because Saturn is currently moving through Capricorn. He will finish that by the end of 2020. When you have your Saturn in Capricorn, and a lot of the early millennials also have their North Node, which is about your path, how you're getting to the top, your literally your destiny. Okay. So not only how they structure themselves, but also their destiny. This is kind of what the North Node looks like, guys. Okay. Looks like little headphones. So your whole purpose and how you structure yourself is in Capricorn. So what's happening now, you're seeing the beginning, the earlier millennials, the older millennials, taking power now and beginning to implement new structures. You're starting to see new inventions. You're starting to see new businesses come out that are more spiritually inclined, that are about tearing down certain structures, that are helping other people. Different services people are offering, and usually a lot of it is online. Okay, can somebody deal with that car? And so you're starting to see this really new initiatives. Okay, coming in, getting into power. You're starting to see younger generations, the people in their early 30s, getting into the government as well. Okay, and so this is the first step. You kind of got to get into the system first before you can change it. Okay, so the older millennials are now getting into the system in whatever way that is, structuring in a new way. Okay, now Saturn's energy, it takes 30 years to go around, so this is a structure that's beginning. Okay, you're also seeing people in millennials in the early 30s and the late 20s, celebrities that are millennials speaking up. You have like Lizzo and people like them talking about weight and talking about loving yourself and all these spiritual elements, talking about and bringing them down. They have music. Think of the music now. There's a lot more self-love music, a lot more empowerment in music. Okay, coming out and being spoken, and it's a lot of the younger millennials, not the younger millennials, but it's the millennials. Okay, are the ones that are communicating these things. Okay, and so you're seeing this now. And so what's happening is Saturn, as we go through the millennials, moves into Aquarius, and Aquarius is the energy of the future. Okay, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus here. Okay, and so what's happening is, and this is this is the 93, 94s. Okay, what's happening is, as we are getting older, and we're going to be activated this year, we're starting to connect with the older millennials who are just getting into the structures as well, and we're starting to fuse and team up, and we have very future-oriented ideas. Okay, that are going to push us into the new age. But we kind of need our older millennials to kind of get us in and get us some support. Then once we get the support, we're the main group of the millennials here to really initiate new change. Then you got the Pluto-Sag generation, the end of the millennials, that are going to take what we are bringing in and sharing and spread it to all around the world, long distance, which rules Sagittarius. Okay, and spread the truth, which is Sagittarius. Okay, and so a lot of the leadership, this is very leadership energy with the millennials. We're very strong. We all want to be leaders in some way. Okay, because we're here. Pluto also represents power and control. So for us to have Pluto in Scorpio, we're not only the oldest souls, the most ancient souls, we are the most powerful. And that means we will take the most power in society by the time we get older. Okay, and you can already see that we were challenging generations as children. Okay, in school they had to come up with so many new rules for us because of our power. Okay, and we've been surprises to a lot of the other generations as we've grown up, and we will continue to be. Okay, and so we are going to be the most empowered generation for the next 200-ish years. Okay, so we're going to take major power. All right, and then the Pluto-Sag generation is here to help spread all that we are beginning. Okay, and so this is what you're seeing. This is kind of the makeup of the millennials. All right, so now let me bring that into how we're being activated right now. Okay, let me pull this chart up. So this is the chart currently. Okay, you got the Capricorn energy I just talked about. Oops, I can't. I thought I could draw on this. Can't. The Capricorn energy I talked about. This is the Scorpio energy. Okay, this is the Pisces energy. Now what I do have is a chart pulled up starting in 91. Okay, you can see Pluto like I talked about. Okay, in Scorpio. And again, if I would go further back into the earlier millennials, you can see Pluto still there. Okay, and what you also see, Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn. See how and they're within 6 degrees. See how they're together? Okay. And the last thing you see is, see how I talked about the North Node, look like the headphones in Capricorn? Also Saturn here, structuring, but at the end of Capricorn. Okay. And what's interesting is you see, notice 91, where is Saturn now? They're almost there. Okay. So you see it's this in Saturn, once you have your Saturn return at 30, this is literally when you take authority into the world and really begin and become a part of the world and influencing the world. Okay. So you're seeing the millennials, we're taking power. We're getting an influence now. All right. Because the energies that were happening when we were born are now back. Okay. Now, what I want to do now is start to get into the activation. All right. Because the main energy I want to talk about is my 93 babies. Okay. Now, I'm not going to show my chart because it's kind of unique, and I want to just kind of like keeping my chart kind of private. Okay. So we're going to look at January of 1993. Okay. Now, like I said, Saturn has now moved into Aquarius. Okay. And you got Pluto here, still in Scorpio. And notice the 93 babies, Uranus and Neptune, very, very close. Same degree, but they're not even the same minute. I was born with they're the same minute too. Okay. So very, very close together. Okay. Which is the culmination of this energy. The other generation, I mean the other people, this horn has been going off for like 5 minutes and it's frustrating me. Okay. The other millennials have been dealing with, they've had this energy too, but it's a little more separated. Like if we get 2 years back, see, it's a little more separated, but it's closing in when we get to 93. Okay, so the 93 babies hold the majority of this fused energy. Okay, so let's go to now the activation. All right, so this is my notes from the activation. This is why I'm making this whole video. So now that you kind of understand the millennials, the structure of our planets, this is our activation. So in 2018, this is where I'm going to start. Okay. Actually, let me just go back really quick. In 2014, okay, this is when I had my awakening, the main one. Okay. Notice Saturn was moving through, and the North Node, okay, as well in 2013. Okay. See how they kind of switched here? Saturn is in the North Node. We're both in Scorpio, which is where the Pluto is for the millennials. So at this time in 2013, freshly after 2012, which was the and the horn is going off again. Wow. In 2012, December 21st, 2012. Remember that was supposed to be the end of the world. That was known as the harmonic convergence, and that was about really the shift of getting us into this new age, the age of Aquarius. That was the main, you could say, the end of the age of Pisces. And I believe we have this 12-year until 2024, when Pluto goes into Aquarius, 12 years of transition. Okay, that's what I believe. And so we're basically halfway through that now. And so back in 2013, this is when my awakening, this is when I was really starting to feel the awakening. The North Node was on my Pluto, and the North Node is about your destiny. So it's like pulling us and activating our Plutos. Okay. As Saturn, which is structure, is moving through Scorpio, giving this new activation some structure. Okay. So I kind of had my awakening in this time, 2013-ish, and really started to kind of move into, okay, what does this mean for my life? You know, really investigating the spiritual, okay, with Saturn moving and giving structure to the millennials. Now, of course, I'm a 93 baby. You felt this earlier if you were, well, not that early, if you were born, you know, you're a later, I mean, you're an older millennial. You can see Saturn started to move in 2012, okay? So that's that. So that's that activation happening, the initial activation of our Plutos. Okay, so this is just kicking in with our soul, getting us deep and connected with our soul's energy. Okay, activating that energy. Right. Then we move on. Things kind of, you know, we grow from there. We're kind of learning, blah 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 blah, until we get into 2017. Okay, and again, this is mainly keyed towards the 93, 94 babies, but before then, in 2016 as well. Notice this energy. Pluto, okay, is moving through Capricorn. So as we had in 2014, Saturn over our Plutos, we got daggone Pluto coming over where we had our Saturns. Okay, this is for the older millennials. All right, so you're starting to see this activation really strongly here. Okay, and notice Pluto's going to continue on. I started to really feel this in 2017 and 2018 because Pluto's getting close to my 19-degree Uranus-Neptune conjunction. So remember we had this place here, see this? Pluto, right on top of it. So Pluto is about rebirth and transformation. So we just had this wake-up call in 2013, 2014, 2015. Getting us like, whew, okay, something's changing. Now Pluto is awakening our energy of the the Uranus-Neptune conjunction, which is bringing down the spiritual and manifesting on the earth. So since 2017-ish, but again, the older millennials, you had it before this, okay? But I'm talking mainly to the 93, 94s. Starting in 2017, we really started to wake up into our purpose, and start to have dreams of how we're going to implement newness into society, okay? Notice it's 2017. I started the Water Bearer shortly before this in October 2016, okay? And the Water Bearer is my main way I feel that I'm going to be impacting society with the spiritual, okay? Clearly. And so you're seeing this activation happening, this kind of wake up, this like, oh, something's changing. This is really when you start to see people, the millennials getting into astrology, buying oracle cards, and this is still happening, okay? Because this awakening is happening, this waking up is happening, okay? Now, I also want to mention really quick, you got Neptune over here, okay? Remember we saw Uranus and Neptune, okay? And Neptune is also forming, see this blue line, a sextile to the natal Neptune where it was. And this is mainly for the older millennials. This is when you're starting to see Neptune is the ruler again of the spiritual, okay? So for it to connect to our natal Neptune, this is activating our spiritual energy, okay? Synchronicity is increasing, connecting more to dreams, trusting the spirit more, okay? Again, older millennials, you felt this more in 2015, you know what I'm saying? 2016, but later millennials, we're going to feel this in 2020. Excuse me. Neptune is going to exactly connect to this energy, okay? So this is why I'm talking about this now, okay? But you're starting to see this creep in. 2018 was really this is really when Pluto was exactly on top of my Uranus-Neptune. And notice Jupiter is moving through Scorpio. And Jupiter is about expansion. So it's expanding the Pluto energy, okay? Expanding our soul's essence, the millennials. And this has been happening since 2017. So you see all these there's multiple things keying off the millennials' energy in 3 different places. The 3 main places of the spiritual, but also of our chart. Okay, so you have this energy coming in. Oops, not the hour. Let's move the year. With Pluto. Okay, and then what we had as well recently, which is why things have been getting really intense in society, but also for the millennials, we're feeling this strong urge to get into society and like figure our lives out. Because Saturn, the ruler of structure and karma and, you know, the whole plan, is now in Capricorn. And the oldest millennials are now beginning their Saturn returns. And this is beginning the millennials getting into power. So really starting in 2018, you start to see change and influence with the millennials. You start to see the protest, you know what I'm saying, with the global crisis and that kind of thing. So much change coming in, okay? And so all this is happening. This is all beginning the activation, okay? And when I talk about as well, this is also activating the older millennials, all right, at this time, okay, coming into power, right? And now 2019 came on through. This is why this 2019 year, for me especially, was insane, okay? Because Jupiter's now jumped off of our Pluto, but it's now getting more intense. These energies are coming. Now you got Saturn and Pluto within the same area of our Uranus-Neptune conjunction. And notice Neptune is getting even closer, okay? And now what we also have is Uranus. So you see Uranus and Neptune were the 2 that were together. Uranus is beginning to form a trine, which we'll see into 2020 and 2021, to this energy as well, okay? And in opposition to our Plutos, Uranus is about, again, the great awakener. So major awakenings even more coming in 20 and 2021, okay? But again, the older millennials are going to start to feel that in 2020 because notice what happens 2020 as we go on. Uranus starts to move in and is forming trines to the your natal Uranus and Neptune of the older millennials. And we're going to start to feel this main millennials once we get in 2022 as well. Okay. But again, as you can see, Neptune is still connecting here. Okay. And eventually they're going to connect together, Neptune and Uranus. Okay. And that's going to benefit the millennials as well because we have those energies fused. All right. So lots of change. And notice in 2021, Saturn's moved out of Capricorn. So all the millennials that have Saturn in Capricorn will already be really moving into their life purpose, and it will begin to really shift and move the to my generation, the main millennials, okay, the 93, 94, 92s are going to start to come into power. And this is what I'm saying, the 92s, 93s, 94s are going to be some serious bitches because Saturn is coming into Aquarius with Jupiter, and they kind of stay together all through the year, okay? And so you see this energy now, Jupiter and Saturn lighting up the Aquarian energy, okay? You see Neptune still connected back, okay? But the energy is kind of leaving Capricorn now and is about the future, okay? So they're kind of getting us into the age of Aquarius, really getting us set into, okay, how this is going to affect society, getting the millennials into their places of power. You're starting to see by 2021 especially, we're going to be in places we need to be. Okay, not the full places, but in the storyline. Okay, which is why I believe currently right now, with this happening, the joining of Saturn and Pluto, which are the two energies we were talking about, Pluto over here and Saturn over here. Okay, with them fused, this is us signing the contracts right now. All the millennials are really getting in alignment to get us moving forward. Okay, so that once we get to 2021. We can really see the advancement and start to moving forward. Okay. And really when we get to 2024, when Pluto moves into Aquarius and really initiates the age of Aquarius, we're going to be really prepared. All right. So you're really seeing this initiation. This is like okay, your lessons are over. You've healed a lot, millennials. Now it's time to, why are you here? This is the beginning now. Okay. And so now let's get into the activation that's happening for 2020 and for the age group I was talking about, mainly the 92s to the 94s, and why this year is going to be so pivotal for us. Okay, so Saturn right now is forming a sextile to our natal Pluto. Another connection, okay, because my Pluto is at 25 degrees over here, right? So literally around my birthday, it's actually the day of my birthday, which is interesting. Saturn will be exactly forming a perfect 60-degree angle to my natal Pluto, okay? Giving structure to Pluto. But sextile is opportunities. So this is meaning the millennials, again, when I say the millennials from now until the end of this video, I'm talking about the 92, 94s. This year, Saturn is going to be offering opportunities to structure our power, putting us into power, okay? Older millennials, you've already had opportunities for that. In whatever way that is. And again, it's going to still continue because you have Jupiter back here, which is expanding what transitions the older millennials have already gone through. So as we're getting our main transition activation this year, millennials, 92, 94s, the older millennials are getting their activation enhanced because they already were activated in 2018, 2019, enhanced this year. So older millennials, if you didn't see as much structure as you would like, you get this opportunity with Jupiter to expand, okay? Because Saturn is about structure, so you might just see the structure of it, but not see the full result, but you're going to start to see that, okay? So Saturn's here, connecting to all of the 92, 94s are Plutos, and that means we're going to be offered opportunities this year to get new structures in our life. And I think a lot of the opportunities are going to be coming from the older millennial generation, okay, who's already got their foot in the door, who's going to be helping us a little bit, okay? So this is happening literally right now, and it will continue to 2020. So the main first thing I'm talking about in 2020 is as we go through 2020, Saturn is going to be connecting to all the millennials, all the Plutos happening here, giving structure, okay? Really, really great energy. The next thing that's going to be happening, Pluto. Notice because they're together. So if this is sextile over here, All this is sextiling over here. Okay. Pluto will be connecting to our natal Pluto. Do you think that's major? Oh, yes. Okay. So this is another emphasis on power coming in, us gaining power, opportunities to gain power. Okay. And again, like I said before, the older millennials, y'all already had that because Pluto was back here on sextiling y'all's Pluto. Y'all's Pluto was a little earlier in Scorpio, so y'all felt this again in from 2014 through 2018. Okay. And so really gaining power. This is fully healing last bits of trauma, fully understanding your soul essence. Okay. And what's special about the 92-94 age group, which I was talking about, we're going to be the main ones. Okay. Blowing it up. Right. We have Jupiter. As these sextiles are happening, it's going to connect to our Pluto. So we not only get Pluto sextiling our natal Pluto, we get Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn sextiling our natal Pluto at the same time. All happening in 2020, the beginning of 2020. Okay, like check here. Oop, a little too. No, this is fine. This is fine. Okay, so again, like I said, my Pluto was 25 degrees. The end of March, I'm going to have Pluto and Jupiter. This is again 93 babies, 92, 94. Pluto and Jupiter together. Fused energy, so it's like Pluto on steroids. Okay, connecting to our natal Pluto, offering opportunity. So this is a massive boost in power, okay, in control, in empowerment, in strength. This is really you're going to start to see the millennials come into power even more. And again, you have Neptune here still forming this beautiful alignment to this energy. Okay. Now, what you're seeing as Uranus is activating the older millennials. So this is not just about the 92-94s. I'm trying to make sure I'm keeping everybody together so you're all getting, help as well, all getting some guidance. Uranus for my older millennials is hooking y'all up, forming this trine to your Uranus-Neptune conjunction. Sudden breakthroughs, sudden revelations, sudden awakenings, okay? But again, the 92-94s are going to be the main ones you're going to see as we continue on really taking hold because we have our Saturn in Aquarius and we're about to have our Saturn return soon, right? So the middle millennials, and I always felt that. It's like if you were born in 93, 94, 92, okay, our Saturn was opposite of our Chiron. Our Saturn was also forming a square to our Pluto, okay? So our Saturn gets kind of beat up with the 92 to 94s, okay? Meaning I've always felt like, I feel like I'm going through my Saturn return right now, even though I'm 3 years away from it. This is why we're getting our we're getting like 2 Saturn returns. We've had so many difficult aspects to Saturn, our natal Saturn. Our entire lives was like a Saturn return, okay? So we're matured in a new way, a different kind of way. Because right now we're going to get all this activation in 2020 before our Saturn returns. So we're going to come to some kind of power before our Saturn returns because our Saturn returns are very, very pivotal. They're going to be really showing lots of future orientation to the society, but we need to have some kind of influence before that happens, okay? This is, again, the 92 to 94s, all right? So the people that are already of power are going to be helping us to get to power before our Saturn returns so that we can be in power by our Saturn returns to really initiate the major plan that we hold within us because we have Saturn in Aquarius, which is about structuring the future, okay? So major things are happening, all right? Oops, wrong way, this way, okay? So that's 2 of the things in 2020. The next thing, Jupiter will be conjunct Pluto as it is sextiling. Yes, major. Okay. And also what I want to mention, I kind of skipped over this, sorry guys. In February, notice, Jupiter will be exactly on top of our Uranus-Neptune conjunction, expanding that. So not only is Jupiter expanding Saturn and Pluto, which are connected to our Plutos over here, and just connected in general, giving structure and rebirthing our own Uranus-Neptune conjunction, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is going to be expanding this point as we're coming into power, as all these things are connecting. Neptune is giving us more spirituality, and it's connecting to our soul over here. So y'all see this connection? It's like 4 different connections. And notice Mars, which is about action and activity. Once we get into March, Mars is going to be just look what happens in the middle of March. You see all of this? March is going to be major for the 92 to 94 babies. I'm interested to see what's going to be happening. Okay. My Venus is 29 degrees Pisces, so this is going to be forming a sextile to my Venus, as the sun's on top of it, and this is going to be forming a trine to my Pluto, and these are going to be forming a sextile to my Pluto, and all of this is also on top of my Uranus-Neptune connection. So the 92 to 94s, I'm telling y'all, this is some serious stuff that's going to be kicking in as we start to get deeper into 2020. Major, major, major stuff. Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to say, oh, it was Neptune. Neptune, again, is forming a sextile. Okay. So it's just major things happening in 2020, guys. All right. So major shifting happening in the beginning of 2020. Then this is what happens. Once we get into April and June, and notice this is also this next 6 months within this eclipse season. We're finishing up this eclipse season, but it lasts for 6 months. So as this eclipse energy is developing and growing, all of this empowerment is happening with my age group. Okay. And then once we start to get into May, we have the Venus retrograde, which kicks in, which is all about, because the summer is the retrograde. So it's like reworking. Okay. So if you don't necessarily see, yes, we're going to be coming into power, but we're going to need some time to rework our plan and see how we're going to connect with others and that kind of thing. Because us having Saturn in Aquarius is the tribe, your networks. So we got to network with our people, our tribe. We got to find each other again. Okay. And so all this is going to be happening the second half of 2020. The reconfiguration of our power, really seeing the shifts come in. Okay. You got Venus retrograde coming in. Right. Really reshifting our minds and relationships. Okay. What we're communicating. As the North Node moves into Gemini, okay, which is going to open the collective's minds so that we can share and express our truth, okay, here. But we also have in 2020, Mars goes retrograde as well, which is our masculine energy. Okay, this is going to be happening here. Notice Uranus is moving pretty quick. Right? Uranus is in 10 degrees by middle of 2020, which is really hitting up the older millennials. Okay, but notice as well, all these are retrograde now, going back over and re-hitting these planets. Okay, so Saturn is now where it was in February on my birthday, is now back at this exact point, connecting again, but now retrograde. So what we first understood, we're now getting a second understanding, but more internal. So this is now the millennials are going to be really deeply reworking some things over the summer. Okay. And then once we get into the fall, the energy starts to turn again. Okay. And we start to see the final initiation. Okay. See how they're coming direct, moving again, hitting for the third time. Okay. So major, major influence there. Neptune, see, is back, that is going to be hitting again. And so Mars now doing that retrograde. Okay. So once we get into the end of the year, boom, we're back to kind of where we were in February and March. And Saturn and Jupiter are now going to move in 2021 into Aquarius for the final time. But you're again seeing all this energy is back piled up in Capricorn, hitting our energy for the third time. Neptune's still connected. Uranus is still connected to my older millennials. And the Pluto is still being lit up. Okay, and this is really hitting the late millennials. Okay, almost the Pluto Sag. And then when we get into the Aquarian energy, this is going to be hitting and connecting to the Pluto Sages, Pluto at the beginning of Sag. See this connection here? Okay, this is going to be happening. So you're going to start to see what I talked about with the 92, 93s, 94s is going to happen to the 95, 96s in 2021. So you get ready, guys. Okay. And the last major awakenings for the older millennials will be finished up by 2020. And you'll really start to really see and move into your path, guys, older millennials, and helping me in 2021 on. Okay. And then my 92, 94s, we just had a major empowerment and a major restructuring. And now in 2021, we're going to be preparing for our Saturn return. All right. So that is what I want to share, guys. You see how major this is? Like how much info that was and how much shifting is happening. And also, these things are happening with the outer planets. Okay. The outer planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. These are the things that cause the most effect because they're generational. Okay. The moon, the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars. I didn't really talk about them much this entire time because they affect our daily lives. Okay. So this is, and they are important, but when I tell you alignments from outer planets cause major effects. Okay. So this is really, really big happening here. This is also meaning in society there's going to be opportunities for the millennials. Okay. In some new way. All right. As the old sheds away. Okay. So major, major stuff happening, y'all. Major. And of course, especially once these planets start to move into Aquarius, even more in 20. It happens in 2020, but really in 2021. This is the internet. Really, lots of shifts going to be happening in that way. All these things. Okay. So main thing is follow your intuition at this time, millennials, because Neptune is connecting to our Neptune. All this is happening and connecting to our Pluto. And our Uranus is being affected with this. And this Uranus is hitting off the older millennials Uranus. All these energies deal with intuition. So tap into your intuition. Whatever you instinctively feel, do. Okay? Because that is your soul, Pluto, connecting with all this energy so we can manifest things down to earth. Now, remember I talked about it again before. Our generation has this together so that we can manifest the spiritual to earth. Meaning, it's not already manifested. It has to be manifested. So that's why we have these interesting life paths. It's been difficult for us to fully find our vocation, fully find what we want to do for jobs, fully find the partnerships we want in our life, fully find, the best path forward, because all of our ideas and all the things we're going to be known for and all the things that are going to shift society have to come from our intuition and be brought down by us. They're not here yet. Okay. They're coming. Clearly, they're already in the works, and a lot of the things you're seeing are already here. A lot of new inventions, a lot of new social structures, a lot of new businesses, passion projects are being created now. But to get to the level of society and impact society and tear down the old structures, you see how much energy spirit is putting into this, into the millennials, basically, because all these alignments are here to impact us. Okay. At the same time, like Jupiter coming through at the same time, this is the main reason why I feel like the 92s and 94s are going to be a special batch of beings, because as we're getting the support from Saturn and Pluto to our natal Pluto and our natal Saturns and our natal Uranus Neptune conjunction, Jupiter is here expanding everything. And that did not happen for the older millennials, and it will not happen for the younger millennials. It will touch a little bit to your Pluto, but the effect of hitting the Uranus Neptune conjunction and all that is really for the 92 to 94 babies. So I'm interested to see what our purpose is, okay? Because we hold the main one, because we were born, like I said before, when Neptune and Uranus were the closest together, okay? So very interesting, guys. A lot going on. Let me go back to where we are now. Going on right now. We just had this is really starting it, okay, with Saturn and Pluto together right now, okay? And the sun on top of it. It's just a lot. Okay. But that's what I have, guys. Was excited to share this with you guys. All of the activation. Because I was looking forward. My birthday's coming up. And I was like, I wonder what the energy is going to be. I already did a reading for myself back when I did the spiritual mashup readings. But I really went deep this time. I was like, I want to know what's really, really deeply going on the full year. And I was like shook when I found out all of what's going to be happening throughout the year with Pluto. It's like sextiling our Pluto, and Saturn sextiling our Pluto, and Jupiter moving through and connecting and sextiling our Pluto and connecting with this energy, and Uranus, Neptune, and Neptune sextiling. Like it was all too perfect for me. I was like, all the outer planets are connecting and helping and supporting the millennials for 2020. So your girl had to share. I had to really let people know what is going on. Okay. So if you found this interesting, make sure to give it a like, give it a thumbs up, comment below. Let me know what you think. Okay. What's your feeling if you're affected by this, if any of this resonated with you? My 92 and 94s, you're the main ones I want to hear about because we're going through this together. What else did I want to say before I do? If you're not subscribed, come on now. Go ahead and subscribe. And share to others. If you have other millennials, this is the whole purpose of number one, why I'm here, but we have to connect with each other and spread awareness of what's going on. So if you know people that would love to hear this information, give them the information. And that's what I have, guys. If you want a personal session, I'm always here. My website is, again, down until further notice. You can email me at thewaterbearers, @gmail.com. And I offer so many different services: astrology, tarot, just intuitive guidance, in live ways for, face to face over FaceTime and Skype, or pre-recorded if you don't want to do the face-to-face option. And especially as well, if you're between the 92 to 94 generation and you want information about how this is going to affect you, okay? Because you got to kind of know, like, where is Pluto in your chart? Where is Capricorn in your chart? Where is Neptune in your chart right now? Okay. Where is, what houses is that, and how is that affecting? Okay. So if you want help with that, I'm always here. All right. But that's what I have, guys. Thank you again for tuning in to the Millennial Activation video. It is our time, guys. I'm super, super excited for this energy. The first 3 or 4 months of 2020 are going to be very, very sensational and very shifty for the Millennials. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Okay. So, this could be a video we go back to and we're like, oh my God, look at what happened after this year, So that's what I have, guys. I'm done with my rambles. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. I tried to make sure it was, in an understandable fashion. Thanks for tuning in again. Water Bear is out. Deuces.